Marketer of the Day, episode 676, Journaling, Self-Care, and Time Management. Marinate, prioritize, disrupt the pattern, and let go of control with Petra, Monaco.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Marketer of the Day podcast. We're joined by return guest Petra, Monaco, and Petra is an author, artist, and a coach, and she is the CEO of The Rebel's Den, and you can find her past appearance on our show from years, well, not too many years ago, but long enough for us to catch up and see what's new. Her previous appearance is at marketeroftheday.com/188, where she told us about how to take inspired action and get better tapped into our mindset. And Petra's mission is to help people embrace who they are, to create a life that feels good and removes the excuses from achieving their goals. So Petra, glad to be talking to you today.
Yeah, I'm excited to be back, really.
So catch us up. What have you been up to?
So from the last time we spoke, I've did a complete rebrand. It's not that my message necessarily changed, albeit slightly, right? Like there's more power behind it now. So being a rebel, I don't do conformity. I've never done conformity, and that's my message: don't conform.
And sometimes it's like, sometimes you can have something new and be an innovator, and then everyone else catches up to you, and then suddenly you're conforming. Like you started off being a nonconformist, but then like everyone else became you. So now it's time to throw things out and charge ahead and do something new, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I call it pattern interruptus usually, because I'm disrupting the pattern, disrupting the norm of what people think we should be doing. I don't even like the word should, right? Because that just kind of keeps you stuck. So yeah, just kind of doing the same thing, but different.
So what does that look like exactly? What's new? What is the Rebel's Den all about?
So the Rebel's Den is life and business combined, because I discovered for myself personally as an entrepreneur that it influences every area of your life as well. And you can't neglect the pieces of your life that are not going well if you're just focusing on your business, because it just doesn't translate well or become fluid. I don't necessarily even like the word balance, more like harmony. If your personal life is not great, then your business is affected. If your business isn't great, your personal life is affected. It's sort of like that back and forth. And so I write about all things life and business, somehow to how I do things, what my life lessons have taught me, situations I've been in, that kind of a thing.
Fantastic. And I also prefer saying balance instead of harmony, because that word balance sounds like, well, if my personal life isn't great or family life's not great, I'll just take a piece out of the business. I'll take 20% of the business, put it in the family. And it just seems like a very zero sum scarcity. Both things are mediocre, right? Both things are kind of halfway. I don't like that. I prefer everything to be great in all categories.
Yeah, absolutely. I think balance, it's sort of like everything needs to be 50-50. In the reality, that's just not how this works. It's not how you think of the ocean. The ocean isn't 50-50 in balance. It has waves in one area and no waves in another, but it still does what it's supposed to do. And you just got to figure out what that looks like for you, how that works for you. And just kind of also even maybe like an analogy being like a dance, right? Sometimes you're leading, sometimes you follow. And that's just how life goes. Sometimes your life will take precedence over your business, and sometimes it's the other way around. You just got to figure out how to make that work for you.
Yeah, totally. Adapting and improvising. And so when you look at your life and you look at how what you like and what you don't like, I mean, what is your life like, and how did you get to the spot, and how are you fulfilled, and how do you know that you have that work-life harmony that you want?
Yeah, oh boy. So back in the day, I started with a planner and a schedule, had everything down, like what I was going to do for every minute of the day, but only to realize that I can't work that way. I'm a creative by nature. I need the fluid motion. There's days I'm creative and I have to create. I can't even do any kind of logical thinking in those moments, because I just got to create that art or write that piece in some kind of a way. But then I found that if I sit down on a Sunday and like, well, what do I want to do this week? What would feel really, really good to achieve, and sort of come from an ideal week perspective of what that would feel like, I can really tap into, I can make this work. So I plan my goals ahead, but I don't necessarily plan my week ahead. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So you say you don't plan your week ahead, but you also have some idea of what an ideal week would look like. And so when you write that down, like, what does that look like? Is it like a page or bullet points or like goals or loose ideas? Like, what does that ideal week kind of plan entail?
Yeah, so I have set goals that I set every quarter, and then I look at them, like on a Sunday or even on a Saturday, because I don't actually work on the weekend. But I'll sit down and say, all right, this is the goal that I'm focusing on. What do I need to do this week to make that happen? Looking at what I've got going on in my personal life, my non-negotiables, make sure I have time for myself. Get those booked in first, actually, before I even focus on those goals. And then on a piece of paper, I'm like, all right, Monday, I'll focus on some blog posts maybe that I know I need to get out, or scheduling interviews for my own staff, making sure I'll have art time in there, because sometimes I tend to I get so focused on projects, I forget, oh, I didn't do art today. You get that hyper focus going, but it allows me to reflect on, oh, how can I have that little bit of space of art so I can de-stress, because it helps me just kind of ground myself again, right? Because that's important to me. And just kind of sort of map it out. Client projects like are going on, they go on there, and then just like, okay, this is what I need to work on. And then just kind of go with it. I look at it in the morning and I'm like, all right, yes, I can do this. Or maybe I have worked ahead the day before and I've already gotten a bunch of stuff done where I can just kind of goof off for the day. So it's just kind of, yes, some structure, but allowing me to go with the flow and be flexible and adaptable at the same time. And that's a skill that comes over time.
Right. And correct me if I'm wrong here, but as you're explaining this, what I'm hearing is like, there's a certain amount of like calibration to figure out, right? Of knowing yourself. And you say, I have all these different things I have going on. And if I had no plan, it would just be total chaos and I would probably do all the wrong things. And then you figure out, well, here's the non-negotiables, or here's like a stab at it, right? Here's what I would like to happen. But then knowing that the more it gets to the point where the more detailed it is, the less likely it is to happen. So it seems like you kind of know, like, well, here are the things that, I need to push myself a little bit and make sure I get the writing done, and then also schedule time for other stuff. But it seems like you know that the plan will never be 100% perfect, but it's better to have like a 70% accurate plan than none at all, right?
Oh, absolutely. I feel if you don't write down your goals or your actions that you're going to take, you are guaranteed to not do them, because you don't have anything to help you hold yourself accountable. And the paper is a good start. I have accountability partners as well that I meet with. So there's all moving pieces. And I want to backtrack what you said. You have to know yourself. I think self-honesty, self-awareness, all the things, how you're working, what's the best time of day for you to use your brain. For some people, it's in the morning. For some people, it's at night. When you know that, then you can create sort of guidelines or a layout of the land for your week. And know, for me, it's in the mornings. That's when I'm on my top game and it comes to my brain functioning. And I know I can crank out the content that I need to, as opposed to come after 2:00, I'm probably not as good. And that only comes through trial and error and just really tuning into your own self and paying attention when you work best, when you don't work best, and what works for you. My plan is not going to work for everybody.
Right. And I've slowly realized this too, that it takes, years, even decades to figure ourselves out. When we're young and in our 20s, we don't know ourselves, but that's okay, because like we always have energy, right? It work all the time. And then I imagine like going into, I can only imagine when I'm in my, 70s, 80s, when I'll be maybe have less energy, but then also really know like what times of days works, or when things are working or not. So it seems like it kind of works out in the end anyway, right? Like when we're young, we don't know what's not working, but then when we get old, we figure it out, and then it becomes more important in like middle age and old age and all that stuff.
Yeah, it absolutely. It comes with age, it comes with experience, and also, your priorities, your goals, everything shifts, right? Like nothing is constant. Your goals, maybe it was one day to write a book, and then you're halfway through the book, and you're like, oh, that's not really what I want to do. So your stuff shifts over time, whether you're 21, 35, or turning 50. Your things will shift and change. But when you can tune into yourself and just be aware when stuff comes out, this isn't working or this is working, why am I not showing up to do the work? Because that happens. Even if you have that goal, you're still like, why am I not showing up to do this? Just having those conversations with yourself or journaling about it, whatever works for you, can really be helpful in the process.
So, do you have any wisdom when it comes to like kind of like you mentioned there, like sometimes we might have days where it's like a writing day, but then we don't get the book done, and then the next day switch onto something else. So, do you struggle at all with maybe beating yourself up or feeling too much incompleteness, like starting too many ideas and projects and not finishing enough and feeling bad and wondering like, does something need to change or what needs to change, anything like that?
Not as often as I used to, maybe because I just, I write a journal for myself to help me through some of this stuff. If I do feel resistance, I am working on a next book that was supposed to be done by the end of the month, but it's not happening. And that's just the creative, not feeling like there's something missing, and you just kind of have to pay attention to that. If you feel like there's the full purpose, right, your why, the reasoning you're writing the book or whatever, is really knowing why that's happening. And if there's a piece missing, sometimes it just has to sit. I call it let it marinate, because it's not formulated quite there. I have a ton of projects all the time, and I have to prioritize. That is literally how I get through the getting stuck or over the, not even necessarily facing it. It's like, all right, these are my goals. What's the top goal I need to go after, or want to go after rather? And then focus on that. And then everything tends to just kind of fall into place. Some things fall to the wayside, and that means they weren't necessarily to be meant to be, or they come at a later date because they come back going, hey, remember that that you were going to work on? Do you want to do that now? So yeah, I just do it by priority and intuition. My gut feeling, how I feel about it energetically, usually supports me in that same process.
So, what I'm getting from you is how important it is to write some of these things down, keep that journal, or as you mentioned a little bit there, maybe even do a drawing or a doodle just to express that. And when you're talking about that, how like sometimes you say things need to sit, they need to marinate, the timing's not right. I mean, I just had an aha as you were saying that. Like there was a book I was working on about a year ago, and I wrote maybe half of it, and then I let it fall by the wayside, and I felt really bad. I beat myself up about it, but over the next few months, I had kind of kept that book in mind in different situations when I saw some problem happening or someone asked me about something, and then I went back to it, like a few months ago, and then finished it up, and the end result was way better than if I had tried to rush it, tried to force it, because I worked in all of those stories and all those situations that I had noticed in the meantime because I was paying attention. So, I mean, you're so right that sometimes it's like things just need more time to sit in our subconscious, or for us to just like noodle on some problem for months. And then in the end, it ends up being better than if we had taken it the fast way.
Yeah, absolutely. That's it's learning how to let go of control, right? Because we're, I think, not designed necessarily, but taught that we have to control all things. We have to control ourselves, our thoughts, our behavior, how our discipline, like all the things. But when you are able to let go of that control and just like, well, it is what it is, and just kind of come with that relaxed, laid back point of view, it just kind of unfolds the way it's supposed to anyway. Because when you control it and just force this thing to happen, it's just not going to be great. And then you're going to just beat yourself up because it's not great. And if you knew if you should have waited or could have waited, then it would have been so much better. And now you're in that spiral of, oh, if I just waited, it would have been so much better.
Yeah, I agree completely. That's huge. And I struggled with that somewhat in outsourcing more, delegating more, and thinking, well, I have to do everything because that way I know when it'll start and know when it'll end. I know how much it costs. I know how much time it is. But then you have to kind of let go sometimes and like assign some of these tasks and then check on them later and know that it won't be perfect. But it's like if we try to make it perfect, if we try to hang on to all that control, like you said, like it won't be as good. We might burn out. We might get tired. We might get spread too thin. So I mean, yeah, like an important but also kind of a scary thing to keep in mind there, right? That we might have this problem with too much control.
Yeah, it's letting go control can be pretty scary depending on your backstory too, right? It all depends on your personal history because we get our messaging through our upbringing for the most part. And as English is my second language, and when I first wrote my first book, I didn't write it for 20 years because I was so worried about the mistakes I was going to make grammatically and spelling wise that I didn't write it. And then I ended up writing it because I went through some very drastic life changes. And I was like, the heck with it. So what if people don't get my messages? So what if there's mistakes in it? My message is always bigger than my mistake. And that's what I focus on. And that helps me through so many imperfections. I don't do anything perfect. And I'm so good with that. My videos are not great. And it's just like, just owning that I'm a real human being and not a machine.
Right. And that's huge. The message is bigger than the mistake. And as you're explaining that, what came to mind for me was like, it sometimes helps to see other people do things. And sometimes like I think about blogs or books I read, and there might be a typo here and there, but I don't even care. So the right people that I want to bring to me, like, wouldn't care about the occasional typo, or like some of these YouTube videos or channels I watch. I don't care all that much about the production quality. So why let a simple non-issue like that get in the way? So yeah, that's huge. The message is bigger than the mistake. And so as far as like you personally and your self-improvement, have you had any struggles in the past year or so, like ways you gotten like blocked, stuck, frustrated, confused, and kind of had to dig yourself out of a mess in any way?
You mean the rebranding I did in the last 6 months?
Yeah, I mean, if that counts, if reinventing yourself means there were some problems along the way, sure.
Absolutely. Like, I totally felt stuck in my business. And I was branding under my own name because when I first started, I was like, that's what I want to be known as. I want to be known by my name. I want people to say my name and know exactly who I am, right? Like that was my thing. And then last year, I went away to a festival, went camping, and came back with some epiphanies about my ideal people and how I wanted to be coaching and the kind of work that I wanted to be doing. And it just kind of like got me more stuck. Like I couldn't write. I mean, I wrote for the blog, but it was like, half hours. Like I couldn't be bothered. And so just got something out. And by December, I was like, okay, something's got to change. Something's got to change. And ended up meeting with my coach and talking to her, and she's like, and it goes back to the control. It's okay to let go. It's okay to create a new goal, create a new path, and maybe even create a different message if that's what's needed. And so Petra Monaco isn't going anywhere. There's another project for that, but it's more personal, I think. And so, yeah, I allowed 4 months, I think, to just sit there. Do I let go of that? Do I not let go of that? And it was challenging because I didn't get any clients, right? Like that was, I didn't create any good content. But then embracing this new thing, the Rebel's Den, things just started to become easier. I had interviews lined up. My writing became easier. I knew exactly what I was creating. So it just became more fun again. And I think that's when things don't become fun, it's time to take a step back and see what the problem is.
And when it's time to like let go of what's not working and reinvent, how do you overcome that fear that the new thing might be worse or that there might not be a new thing? Like how do you get across that gap?
I write. I mean, journaling for me is huge. I write I'll go visit my best friend. I'll go for a run. I'll do a lot of self-care. It's almost like going the extra mile in self-care, right? You're so extra with the self-care. It just becomes a sole focus, because when, again, it goes back to if you control the problem, the situation, the frustration, it's not going to go anywhere. So knowing that and keeping that in mind, it's like, all right, I'll go for a run. Maybe that'll help. Or maybe I'll just go hang out with my best friend and we'll spend some time together hanging out and just maybe just forget about it, right? And maybe it'll come up when you have a conversation. Yeah, it's just about learning to let go of all the things. It's really probably one of the hardest challenges somebody can do.
Might take a whole lifetime, and it sounds like the 12-step thing, right? The serenity prayer with the drug addicts and the alcoholics. Like, there's the things I can change and things I can't change, and you sort those out and focus on the handful of things that you can change, and everything else is like the other 99.9999% of the world, right? So you just focus on the handful of factors that are within your control. Yeah, I mean, that's huge.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like, for me, a journal is my go-to. I like write down what's not working, what is working, and do that comparison side by side, like pros and cons, that kind of a thing. And all of a sudden, you'll be like, oh my God, that's what's not working. This is what I need to be doing. Or you just need to step away and take care of yourself, because burnout is a real thing if you don't honor, your own needs as far as exercise, nutrition, all the things. And so I'll go for a run. And then sometimes I have the best ideas while I do that. Or I'll go to a festival for a weekend and camp out like a rock star with everybody. And that'll bring me the thing. So it's just being allowing, learning to allow. That's I think the key to help you through frustration, the struggle, getting unstuck from everything.
So I'm hearing from you, learn to allow, write a lot of things down, let things sit, plan your ideal week, knowing that it might not work out that way. Go camping, go to a festival, go to a run, go talk to your best friend. For the most part, just like plan a few things, but then also know that the rest will work out. And so along those lines, we've been talking about all this kind of self-care mindset stuff. And if people like what you've been talking about so far, can you tell us about the rebelsden.com and what's there and what problem it solves and kind of what makes it unique?
Yeah, so what's there is a gazillion blog posts. That's probably overestimated. But all right, pretty much every day there's a blog post, and it could be about finding your voice, creating on your rebellion, mindset, entrepreneurial stuff, blogging, writing, like all the things that I do, because I firmly believe to only talk about the things that I know how to talk about. And you can get coaching from me through there, obviously, if you need some one-on-one guidance and help. And because I'm an introvert, and sometimes introverts don't want to talk face-to-face with people, there's an option for you not do that. We'll do all email, because I fully believe meeting people where they are, instead of them meeting where I'm at, because that doesn't work that way. How does it make it unique? I mean, you get me. That's all I can tell you. You get to know me, my stories, my journey, and how I do things and how I look at things, because my perspective can be a little off-putting, a little different. I'm from Europe. I grew up in foster care. So there's a few things that I do differently than people might not be familiar with. And they're going, huh? Yeah.
But that's good, because when we started talking, you said that you're a nonconformist, and sometimes people who have just been stuck in the same old cycle, sleep pattern, and just drifting their way through their life or their business, maybe they need that new perspective to wake them up. Like, their own thinking's only going to get them so far, and if they're hitting that wall, if they're stuck, if they're blocked, then they might, number one, and what I'm getting from you is, number one, they first of all need to go to the rebelsden.com and read some blog posts, because more information is better. But number two, there are all these kind of proven things, like the running and the self-care and the journaling and the art, that we all need to pay attention to, because it's simple but it works. And then number three, if they're really stuck, if they need help, then they should reach out. They should start a conversation with you to see if they're a good fit for that one-on-one coaching or the live chat or the email, just so that way they can get unstuck and get to the next level. Because we're not going to get the time back. I mean, it's good sometimes for those ideas to sit for months, but if you're struggling for 10, 20 years, I mean, that's no fun. That's not a life. So why suffer needlessly? Why not get Petra's help, and why not go to therebelsden.com? And are there any other web addresses, links to go to, or is the Rebels Den just the hub, the place to go?
That's the hub to go. But people are welcome to connect with me on Facebook, also under the Rebels Den. I have an Instagram account. It's Rebels Den only. But yeah, the website is the best way to reach me for sure. Anytime, day or night. My inbox is always open.
Super cool. Maybe people will hold you to that. So therebelsden.com is the place to go. And then add Petra on Facebook and Instagram. It's always good to just, if you hear someone on a podcast, add them on Facebook or Instagram, because it's not like watching TV. It's not like watching a talk show where the person is just completely, you can't contact them. Like, these are real people. And if you hear someone on a podcast and you resonate with what they have to say and you want to hear more of that, why not take that small step? So find Petra on Facebook and Instagram. To spell her name, that is PetraMonaco. So that's Petra Monaco, and then therebelsden.com. And thanks so much, Petra, for stopping by and being honest and vulnerable and raw, and telling us what we need to be doing and keeping in mind if things aren't working, because you've lived it too, right? We're all living it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I don't want anybody to have to face a life and death situation going, oh crud, now it's too late, because that's what I've done. I've lived it. And anybody wants to hear that, please reach out. I'll be happy to tell you.
Super cool. And once again, that is therebelsden.com, which everyone should go there right now. If you're ready to reach out, great. If you're just curious, go there and see what's there. Even if you only have 5 minutes, just poke around for a few minutes and see what's there at therebelsden.com. And thanks for taking the time, Petra. We'll see you again soon.
Yeah, I so appreciate it. Thanks.
Cool. Have you had a chance to rate and review the show yet? If not, go right now to marketeroftheday.com/iTunes. Click View in iTunes and click the Ratings tab. We would really appreciate a 5-star rating, or whatever you think is fair, plus a quick 1-sentence review to tell us how we're doing. Thank you very much, and have a wonderful day.